Hello, hey, nice to see you. Uh, Already all the comments coming in from the Rocky Mountains and St. Lucia again, and upstate New York and windy Surrey. It's very windy, isn't it? The trees that you can see out there, they were flying around all over the place just a while back. You see, I've got an outdoor jacket on inside. It's that cold. So it doesn't feel spring-like at all here in Sussex. I don't know how it feels wherever you are. But lovely to see everybody. Julia in a cold, windy, rainy London, Alwina in Canterbury, Trixa in South Germany, and Kevin in Ontario, and hey, Victor in Brussels. Lots of people. Sweden, Princeton. Hey, Roma's there. Haha. And Roma, there's part of our team here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Wild West Wales, Bramble Fluffix Mud Monster. What a fantastic name. Okay, great to see you and welcome. So what I wanted to do is to use our time together this evening to talk a little bit about Beltane, the season and festival time that is upon us in the Northern Hemisphere. But we'll bring in the Southern Hemisphere too, if you're coming in from down there. And in addition to that, let's have a meditation on the theme, and then I'd love to tell you about a new project that's just been born and that I and Roma have been working on for some months. So here we go. Beltane. I hope you had a good Beltane weekend, that you were able to jump over a fire or over a candle, perhaps. Perhaps you enjoyed the online Obod ceremony, which Stephanie and I watched, which was lovely to see people from all over the world joining in, old friends. It was great. And here's a little secret or an idea that I think is really helpful in understanding the meaning of a ceremony. If one wants to get to the core, or one of the core meanings of a ceremony, is actually to look at its opposite. So to travel across the circle and to look, in fact, at the other ceremony. So what is Samhain about? Samhain is about surrender. It's about letting go. It's about leaving this world to enter the other world. And Beltane, at the other side of the year, is about the opposite dynamic, which is about engagement. Whereas Samhain is about disengagement, this is about engagement. Now, in the Northern Hemisphere, as our friends in the Southern Hemisphere are disengaging for Samhain, we in the Northern Hemisphere are being urged by nature to engage with life, to be really engaged with it, filled with wonder and awe and love for this world, and to be actively engaged with our lives rather than trying to detach ourselves from it. That's the energy of this time and of nature around us. And that helps, I think, to get away from, the thing in, there can be a kind of pressure around Beltane for everybody to be talking about in relation to sexuality and union. And that's all very well if you're feeling sexy or you're feeling or able to engage in union or communion. But of course, that's just one aspect. And if we slightly shift the way we talk about it to engagement, union with nature, union with the world, engagement with the world, that I think can help to frame it in a wider context, and perhaps in a more helpful context for many people too. So let's go into a meditation. I'm just going to, more windy Wales is, was the green light holly or hawthorn? I think holly, Richard. So somebody's just arrived for tea from Manchester. Welcome, do join in. So great. So let's just allow ourselves to shake off all the thoughts of the day. You know, there's a lovely moment in Druid ceremonies where you step into the circle, and in Obod we say, we leave outside all disturbing thoughts, and we can just imagine ourselves just leave. We can always pick them up at the door again when we leave if we want to, but we don't really have to. So we leave outside all disturbing thoughts, and then let's just imagine that whilst we're sitting here in front of our computer screens all over the world, different places, St. Lucia in the Caribbean, and all around the States, and in New Zealand, and all around Europe, let's just imagine that we're coming into the sacred grove to be together. And so imagine, if you will, that as you move through the trees, you're coming to a clearing on a beautiful morning, a Beltane morning, spring morning in May. And there's still a freshness in the air, but spring is definitely here, and you can feel it in the air, and you can feel it in the warmth on your skin. And as you sit down on the ground, you can feel the way all the creatures, all the life in the ground knows that it's spring. There's this spring energy rising. And even though the grove is peaceful and quiet as you sit on the ground, just in the perfect spot for you, even though it feels peaceful, as you settle down, you start to tune into the fact that that the earth is actually humming with activity. There are creatures scuttling about. There are worms burrowing away in the soil. There's all sorts of biological processes going on in the soil and in the plants. The plants are growing. And so you allow that energy, that growing spring energy, to flow up into your body, just bringing with it a kind of vitality and life that you can feel as you sense this life flowing up your legs, up your thighs, up the trunk of your body, to your heart, out to your arms, and up into your head, filling you with a sense of light and energy. And you become aware of your brothers and sisters, the trees around you now. And you sense the energy and the life in the trees. And as you breathe in, you notice the smell of hawthorn blossom. And you realize, of course, that's why the grove looked different. It's filled with hawthorn, with the white flowers of the May tree, with its very particular musky scent. And you breathe it in with its heady promise of summer and of fulfillment. And as you breathe in and out, breathing in the scent of the May, you ask that you might fall in love with the world. May you be like a young person in May who is just in love with life, whose beloved is the world, whose beloved are the trees, the land, the flowing rivers, the sky. And you breathe in the energy of the sky now, and the sky is bright blue, that lovely blue of springtime. And you breathe in that energy, and you feel that cool air scented with hawthorn flowing into your body. And as you breathe in, you try to breathe in deeply into the belly, holding it for a moment. And then breathing out through the mouth fully and deeply. Breathing in again through the nostrils, the scent of hawthorn, the energy of the spring sky flowing into you. May I fully engage with life. May I be filled with love for the world, with love for the trees, for the animals, with the sun and the stars and the moon. Here, now, on this earth. And then you allow all this energy to settle. No more trying, no more breathing in different energies, just settling in your breath. Just contented with sensing and knowing that the energy of spring is present in your aura and in your energy field and in your body. And you know that the cells of your body just love this energy and they just drink in this energy. There's nothing you need to do. You just simply rest in this lovely, fresh spring energy as your body soaks it up. And then breathing in deeply, you hold the breath for a moment and then breathe out fully and completely through your mouth. Let your breathing settle back to normal. And then knowing you can return to this grove of the hawthorn blossoms at any time, you allow your awareness of the sacred grove to gently fade as you become aware of being seated here in front of your computer screen or your tablet or your phone. Lovely. So thank you, Richard. Yes. So let me talk to you about a project that we've just launched. Beltane seemed like a good, everything was ready and came into place. You know what projects are like. They take, a lot of time, a lot of attention, a lot of focus, and then suddenly, woof, they're born into the world. And so this project was born at Beltane, and I can't even remember when it began, but in a way it began, this project about 7 years ago when I was training up in the mountains in Switzerland. I was training to become a sophrologist, and we did an exercise called the 7 Valleys, which was a guided meditation or visualization that we did lying down. Actually, maybe we were lying down. That's right. We were lying down, but we'd started with a bit of sophrology, relaxation, stretching and breathing. And then we lay down and we listened to the story of a journey through 7 valleys. And it was introduced to us because it's been used in the French-speaking world for over 40 years to help people come to terms with their death. It's been used in palliative care, in thanatology, for preparing people for a peaceful death. But it also is used for personal development because it's a story about the soul's journey back to the source. So that was a wonderful experience, and I always held a really soft spot for this particular technique, the journey of the 7 valleys. And while I was working on the training program for the Sophrology Institute, I decided to research it. And I went back to the original versions of the story It's a Sufi story written about 900 years ago, and you can find it in 3 versions in Persian literature. So I looked at those and then looked at commentaries on those, and I looked at the various versions written by sophrologists. And Roma Johnson, who some of you may know from her presentations on Tea with the Druid, was staying in her the little gnome home, the little garden house here in the garden. And at the time, now she's back in the States. And I was talking with her about it, and I looked and saw that she had painted a picture, which she had on the wall of the little house. A man traveling through a sort of valley in a bubble. And I started to talk to her about the journey of the 7 valleys. And Roma's a wonderful writer, a very talented writer and poet, an incredible poet. And it occurred to me that she might like to write the story of the 7 valleys, because I wanted a new version of it. The original Persian versions are not really in tune with the spirit of the times. They come from a different era. The core ideas are fabulous, but the presentation just doesn't work for me, certainly. And the sophrologists' versions are good, but they don't quite suit me either. And so Roma set to work, and she read the various original versions as well, and then applied her own unique genius and poetic sensibility to the project, and wrote a script for the meditation. And then, in the lovely way that synchronicities occur in this kind of work, I was invited by an old friend to give a presentation for the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation, an online presentation for their organization based in Mexico. And the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation is concerned with end-of-life care and issues around, transition between this world and the next, and so on. And so, of course, I said, well, I can talk to you about the 7 valleys method, because this is perfect. And so I gave a presentation there. And so what we've done is I've introduced the idea. We've basically published a book. Some of you may know The Winged Psyche, which by another delicious synchronicity happens to be about the same sort of thing. If you've got The Winged Psyche, you'll know that it's about, well, part of it is about a journey to source, back to oneness, through 7 stages in the sort of post-mortem journey. And it can be a journey that, you don't have to wait till you actually physically die. You can take this journey at any time. And that's in The Winged Psyche. And I wrote that when I was in the little house as a writing chalet in the garden. And then there we go. A few years later, I'm talking to Roma, who's in the same little chalet, and she writes this journey. So I introduce the method in this book, and it's beautifully done, by the way, by the same book designer. You see, it's an inner book with this wonderful olive tree there, you can see, and on the back as well. And so it's just really, ye who have not yet beheld the beauty of your beloved, do not remain seated any longer. Rise and go in search of this mystery. So said Farid Din Attar, who wrote one of the versions. And so it's encased in this sleeve, in this beautiful blue color. And what it is it's a book plus an online program, because what we've done is we've recorded the journey. Roma's done it in her voice. So if you like a female American voice, you can listen to Roma telling the story. If you prefer a male English voice, you can listen to me telling the story. And there's 2 different kinds of relaxation sequences at the beginning to give variety. And then in my version, Nick Gent from the Mind Orchestra, who he and I have been cooperating on some projects, and he has created some beautiful music that goes along with the recording of the journey. And I want to introduce you to a team member. There's me, Roma, and a basil plant. This isn't actually the basil plant. This is a stand-in. This is a common thing in entertainment and broadcasting. This is a stand-in. The real basil plant, who was used for the recording, is up on Dartmoor, and that basil plant was plugged in, and they used a Damanhurian machine which makes plant music, because plants emit bioelectrical signals, and you can feed it through a machine and it makes music. So in the sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's wonderful. In the music that accompanies the guided journey, you have some plusic sung by a Greek basil plant. And when Nick went into Sainsbury's, he told the plant that he promised it he wouldn't eat it if it would sing for him. And so that was the deal they struck. And so the plant is being planted out when it gets warmer. Anyway, so if this interests you, then do have a look at it. There's two ways. There's two ways you can get to it. You can take two routes to have a peep. You can either go to the bookshop, Obod's bookshop, Holy Basil Tulsi, says Monique, and you can go to the bookshop and you order the book, and you receive this in the post. And when you get it, there's a code word that's printed inside that allows you to go online and get all the online program. If you can't wait for it to arrive in the post and you want to have a dive in straight away, you can get to it in another way, which is by going here. I'm putting them in the comments, which takes you to the online program. You enroll on the online program, and there's a form which invites you to give your postal address, and then we post the book to you. So either way, you end up with the book, the physical book, and the virtual program. It felt important. I don't know about you, but I get frustrated with stuff that's all online because it just disappears into my computer. I like to have physical things, but of course, I like to work online as well, and it's terribly convenient. So we thought, let's make something beautiful and physical that comes to you through the good old-fashioned postal service, but let's also make use of the technology and have it arriving through the ethers on Wi-Fi. And let me, English professor here, books are my friends. Yes, Amy. Yeah. Let me give you, there's far too much to talk about in the content. What we've done included in the program is the webinar I gave for the Kubler-Ross Foundation, and a paper that I've written about it that gives all the references and quotations from the original Persian stories and the meanings of the different valleys. But let me just give you a glimpse of it by just talking for a couple of minutes about the first valley. So you imagine this is an idea. Instead of going through 7 spheres or through 7 planets as we did in the Winged Psyche, in this one you go through 7 valleys. So it's like a pilgrimage or a journey back to the source, back to the garden, to become one with the source of all life. And you start in the first valley, and it's called the Valley of Knowledge. And here's the idea that's being conveyed in the Valley of Knowledge, which is that we can get stuck in the Valley of Knowledge, which is believing that we have to know more and more. And of course, the desire to know more is perfectly natural, and it's what's driven humanity to all sorts of wonderful achievements. So this isn't to say that the acquiring of knowledge is not a good thing. However, the trap is that we feel that we have to keep accumulating it and holding on to it. And then as we get older, we find we can't hold on to it. We keep forgetting things and gradually, and then we realize we have to let go of it all when we snuff it, maybe. So the journey through the first valley invites you to cultivate the knower rather than the known. So in everyday life, we try to cultivate the known, knowledge, but here the stress is on cultivating the knower, polishing the mirror, cultivating the vessel, if you like, because that's what you take with you. That's what carries on through the valleys, the knower, the one that in the end knows Goddess, knows God, knows the Great Spirit. So you go through this valley and you're invited to let go of knowledge. Not that it has to go anywhere, because of course, you know, when you finish the experience, you'll still come back and it'll be there for you. But just to let go of your attachment to knowledge and instead just be the knower rather than the known. So it's deep, profound stuff. And it's something that I would just love to hear people's feedback. So there's, as usual with these online things, there's a comment section. So you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the feedback is and what sort of comments you have. So thank you all for listening to that. Jenna is saying the knower. Yes, exactly. So have a lovely evening or day, depending on where you are. And may the energy of Beltane, even if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, the wonderful thing about all these festivals is, of course, they're all inside as qualities and essences as well. So may the essence of Beltane, the smell of hawthorn blossoms, be with you as you travel through the week. And next week, we have a treat for you. You may remember, I think it was last week, I talked about an experience with Killing Joke, the punk band, and the delicious cheese that is available to certain people backstage afterwards. And the wonderful member of Killing Joke, poet, artist, award-winning record producer, guitarist, and Druid, Youth. Well, Youth has very kindly agreed to be our guest presenter for Tea with the Druid next Monday. Steph and I are going to be in a little shepherd's hut in the New Forest, and Youth will be hosting the event from his wonderful place in Spain. So I do hope you enjoy next Monday's tea. And in the meanwhile, send you lots of love and happy Beltane. And I'm going to make a cup of tea and I'm going to come back and read all your comments.